Okay.
for the Board of
SVSU.
SVSU on Wednesday, February 22nd. Basically, I'll read off the agenda and then we'll go from there. We're going to, our regular meeting, we'll have public comment first. There's no presentations tonight. Approval of the superintendent contract, finance operations related to treasury report, consent agenda. There's no policies tonight. Formation of Act 46 formal study committee, and the superintendent's report, the chair's report, and any other business before us. With that, I'll get a motion to approve that agenda.
So moved. Second.
Anything to be added? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do we have anybody that wishes to make a public comment? None heard, no presentation. Approval of the superintendent contract. Basically, before I accept the motion that, the evaluation committee met again and went over the goals that had to be met and where they stood. And then they came back and we had an executive session tonight with the full board that basically discussed those, plus the contract, so that everybody would be on the same page. And I look for action from the board to approve contract. I can get a motion.
Make the motion.
I'll second that. Then the motion is to approve the revision 2017 copy of the superintendent's contract. Is that right, Frank? And
Yeah, for
I'll second.
2017 through 2020.
No, I'm talking about the revision date.
Yeah, and on the top of it.
Okay, you got 17 to 20 up there. It says revised, okay, 2017, but,
Okay,
all right.
so I got a motion to approve that contract.
And a second for me.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions or nays? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, finance operation related treasury report. Accept,
A move we accept.
Second.
any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consent agenda,
So moved.
Second.
any
Third.
discussion on any of it? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Policies. Formation of Act 46 formal study committee. You want to report on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna pass this around.
Okay.
That should be enough.
At the last meeting of the Act 46 Exploratory Committee, the committee moved to ask the SU to disband their committee. They voted that they can't disband themselves because it is an SU committee, and asked the SU to form a formal Act 46 study committee with the understanding that the model of governance is the modified union hybrid school board meeting, governance model, hybrid school, which is similar to what we know Mount Anthony has. And also, they asked that all district towns would be listed as advisory, so that they have the flexibility that they can withdraw from that study committee. Discussions with our attorney, Steve Stitzel, puts the motion that I have in front of you. His caution on creating such a formal study committee that already has dictations in it as far as what the governance structure and who would be advisory and who would be necessary. If you remember, those are the two terms of how districts are labeled, would in all probability not pass muster with the State Board of Education when they go to approve it, because the statute is clear that that authority rests with the study committee. So the motion in front of you is his recommendation that we form a study committee to study whether such districts are advisable for a formation of a unified union district with representation on each committee being apportioned as set forth below, and the budget for such committee being no more than $25,000, which is the most that we can spend, as apportioned as set below. You see the study committee would have Bennington School District with 4 members, which is what you had before. If we spent the $25,000, that would be your share of it. Shasbury School District, 2 members. Pownell School District, 2 members. North Bennington, 2. Woodford, 1, which is, it's exactly how the Mount Anthony Board is formed. So I know there's probably a lot of discussion on this, so I'll stop here, Mr. Chair.
Is this $25,000 reimbursable from the state?
We can apply for a grant for that, but we couldn't when we didn't have the, we applied for the $5,000 grant when it was the exploratory, so that could be deducted from the $20,000, so it wouldn't be 5 plus 25, it'd be my understanding of it. Steve also pointed out that, we're running up against deadlines. The advisory, the exploratory committee did address this. It doesn't currently seem that the legislature are willing to extend the deadlines for moving this forward. The exploratory committee understood this. We knew that when we did not get something presented to the state board last December for action on their January meeting, it was going to be close to impossible. If we vote to form this committee tonight, the next step is then we go to each individual board, and that board votes when they take 2 votes, one, whether they want to join the committee, and 2, who their representatives. It's not appointed, they got to vote them. Then we would have to have that meeting, that committee meet. So the earliest that could happen would be the last week of March. They would have to agree to the articles of agreement almost in 1 or 2 meetings. I mean, they're close. To be able to get it to on the agenda for the next state board meeting, which would be May. And we'd have to have an election before June 30th in all the towns. It is an almost impossibly tight timeline for us to be able to get the financial incentives unless there is an extension, but I think everybody already understood that that's where. Why would I recommend that you still move forward is so that we continue to meet, discuss, direct, and make decisions on what we want our future to be rather than wait to see if the state comes in and dictates what our future is going to be when we reach those timelines.
Other questions? There's no public comments was earlier.
Yeah, as an alternate, can I speak? I was the one who was at the meeting. There's only 2 people in this whole board that were at that meeting.
Who else was at the meeting? Ken was?
Okay, there was 3, I'm sorry.
So that they can speak if they wish. Okay.
Well, you're not going to allow Matt to speak?
Public comment period is the beginning of the
Then
meeting.
I don't have to vote on this tonight, do I?
No,
I
you
think
don't.
that's not right. This is a matter of
Well,
considerable.
let me ask the board. Does the board wish to have Eugene speak? If you do, then that's fine with me.
All right, yeah.
Or Matt, rather.
It gives the chair the option to make that decision along that line. So you can do that on your own without having to ask the board based on our policy.
I know, well, I'm looking for the board to give me direction. If the
Okay.
board wishes to, I'm
I
okay
have
with
no
it.
objection whatsoever.
I just know past policy, we haven't allowed it.
Right.
You okay?
Yeah.
I'm
Go
okay
ahead,
with
Nate.
it.
Seems an alternative would be for Ray to just leave the room, and then I would be the alternate for our.
I could do that.
I'm glad that he's not. I just need to speak so everybody understands what the history of this is. We together as a full group of individuals 3 weeks ago, agreed and voted to put forth a motion, or to have the SU make a motion to this effect, with the additions of some important, what we all thought, representatives of Bennington, other North Bennington representatives, Shaftesbury representatives, of whom none are here from that committee to speak. But when you said that we should move forward so the state doesn't tell us what to do, it seems that through your attorney, our attorney, that the state just told us what we can and can't do. And that is to once again move into a procedure which is exactly where we were 18, 20 months ago, where nobody knows what the hell's going on. And we went through a lot of progress of coming up with what we thought was a good model to follow. That was the MUUSD, and that everybody was in agreement that it would be an ideal for everybody to be advisable in the formation of that group when it goes out to the communities. And in addition to that, the only way that you were going to get, I believe, Woodford, North Bennington, and Shasberry, at least, to be interested in moving forward was to adopt a model of governance that was similar to, or in other ways similar to, the MAU or the CDC model, what they call a hybrid governance model. The notion that Bennington would, in the end of after doing this, without stipulation of what the restrictions are for this committee to explore, seems that we would not be doing our constituents proper vetting to agree to jump back into that fire. Because then that committee, which will have heavy representation from Bennington, can decide that in fact they want pure representational governance, meaning that they would have 11 members on that newly formed supervisory union board. We would have one. And so Bennington would then control the agenda of everything that occurs. So this goes back really to where we were before, where we were railroaded into as everybody agreed, I think, everybody found themselves in a position where we were told, oh, sorry, you're in something that you can't get out of. We managed to get out of it. We worked through the concerns we all had, came to a conclusion as to how we could all come back together equitably, and now we're being told to vote on it with, just assume that we'll all go ahead with the way that we recommended to this board to go ahead. And that's a pretty hard assumption.
How many meetings did you guys have to,
Well, from the start,
yeah,
probably 10.
say I only made a couple of them, but,
I mean, we started back in 15.
That's what we're looking for.
and you came up with a recommendation that we're not being told to follow, is what I'm hearing now?
Well, so what the recommendation was, and we were gonna vet this with our attorney, which we finally got his response to it. He was gonna write for us, a motion for the SU board to adopt that said, we all wanna get together and look at this, but we want to narrow the focus, because we all agree that the only way this is really gonna work for us is if it's what they call an MUUSD, modified, unified,
Unified Union
Union School District. And that the representation would be like the MAU, not like the SU, or the other models. And that all individual towns would be advisable such that none of them could then, once they do come up with some articles that work, that no one town could destroy the other's wishes. If you're advisable, your community votes not to be a part of it, it doesn't stop Pownell and Shaftesbury and Bennington from doing it. All of which are allowed in the law, but now what we're being told is, no, the state's intention was to create this uber powerful committee that doesn't have to answer to anybody, not even the SU that forms it, and come up with their absolute own legally binding finalized recommendation, not even a recommendation. They'll bring it back to you and say, this is what if it is voted in the affirmative, this is what our brand new modified, our brand new supervisory district will look like. We don't even know if it would be a modified union.
One of the problems I have is, and I've used this term before, is I don't like to be bullied. I don't want the biggest guy in the room being in charge of everything. And from what I just heard, it sounds like we're back to that proportional thing where the biggest guy in the room gets to tell all the small guys what to do.
I don't agree that that's what we
No,
are.
that's not.
Bennington has
that's not.
36%
No,
of the representation.
Not true
Here,
here.
here,
11, that's
but he was talking about
36%.
11 people.
Yeah, that's 11 people,
If
Bennington has 36%.
If-
Bennington gave.
The minutes
I don't
of
understand
the
where you're worried
February
about that.
2nd meeting lay out all the options, or the most salient options for how voting could happen on a unified union board, or modified, MUUSD board. And one of them was strictly proportional to population, and in that one, Bennington has 11 reps on. what's
An
the total?
18-member board.
Of an 18-member board.
18-member board. That's what he was referring to. The Mount Anthony compromise is a hybrid model, and it was also presented in there, and as we all know, because we live with this currently, members run from a particular district, but they're elected by voters of all the
By and large,
districts.
yeah.
That was the point, is that we wanted to stipulate that that would be the governance structure of a newly formed district. We're being told the state likely.
And that's what our attorney is telling us, that, in his opinion, will not get approved by the board if we form a committee that has already predetermined the governance structure
Right.
or who's advisable and who's necessary to join. And I would offer this. When North Bennington wanted to get out of that committee, the committee voted to let them out. I'm not that worried that by forming this committee that reason will not prevail. We all stated, everyone in that room stated the governance model that they wanted, and that everyone should be advisable, so that those options got preferred. If this committee's formed, and that doesn't happen immediately, then the committee should vote to disband, just like it did back in August when North Bennington wanted out. And because I think, I don't know, we asked for a
Members of
legal
that new
opinion, the
board are not
legal,
the same members that sat at that table and came to the conclusion of how we wanted to work together to create something that worked for all districts. That's one concern I have. We don't know who those people will be. In fact, we don't know that they're even currently members of boards in the community, because there's an election coming.
well, the other thing that should be pointed out is if, remember, you vote to form this committee, then it goes to each individual town. What Steve Stitzel told me, our attorney, is if any town district votes that they don't want to join, then we're back here at the next meeting to decide whether we want to form another study committee that doesn't include the district that didn't join. So I think that is a protection that is there, that would allow you to form this committee and still give an option to somebody else to join it.
I don't disagree with you. I wanted to make clear to everybody where we are relative from 3 weeks ago to now. I'm not opposed to, it's going to create more delay, because I don't think, unless there's some further discussion or understanding by the end of March as to who might be those people on that newly formed board, and we will be the first to have to vote at our meeting on the 8th, the day after the election, before anybody else has made appointments to any of those boards.
Shasbury will be right there with us.
And Shasbury the same day.
Yeah.
That, we could delay our meeting until we see what other communities are doing. It's about confidence and trust.
There is no, exactly what it is. It's about trust. And there is no timeline for when any board has to vote who their members are and whether they want to join.
With the
It just means we
understanding,
won't
none
meet
of us are-
until that happens.
None of us are kidding ourselves that chasing that $25,000 is going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Right.
We're not going to end up with a vote in May.
To get, to apply for the grant, because we won't be a form committee, or to get any of the other financial incentives,
That
as I
doesn't mean
said.
that suddenly we're out of pocket collectively $25,000, because it's not going to cost that.
No, it might not cost that. It's up to
This is a budget.
25,000.
And mostly you're going to spend it if you have a consultant involved, right?
Which at this point, I don't see why we would need a consultant. We have, I'd say, articles of agreement that are probably 90% drafted.
Well, where's all the money part? When does that happen? When do you figure out all the real nuts and bolts of?
Yeah.
I think we're going to need some help there, but that's down the road after the state says, okay, we like what you're proposing, then you have that 18 months to put it together and become that new, so.
So I think if we acknowledge that, as you say, chasing the money isn't going to happen, this board votes to form this committee, and other boards take a month or 2 months to form, to decide whether they want to join, all that will do is just delay when the next Act 46 formal study committee can meet and have that discussion. And, you know, maybe I'm being naive, but I think a lot of that work is done, and the sentiment is already known as what we want to agree on. And what, you know, I am also disappointed that we get a recommendation from our attorney that we should not put that in the motion, because you're right, everybody in that room did agree to that.
And I guess it's a moving target from the statewide level too, so having the flexibility to recognize if a different change in the law would allow a structure different than what we would have stipulated here, then that committee could still do that collectively. So I just wanted to make clear that of my dissatisfaction that we think the state is not going to allow us any local control within the creation of this. It's a blind faith thing. So, and with the group we had, I think we really got somewhere 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Call the question.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I don't see any reason why we can't move forward with this. We've got sort of a start of what we need, and once we get in there, we're gonna make the rules anyway and bring them back out, and it's still gotta be re-voted. So, I mean, this gives us a way forward at least.
I call the question.
It would
I
be
don't see
helpful
Jason would.
if there would be continuity after the election of at least board members on the committee.
Okay.
And maybe
So,
citizen
that-
representatives.
You made a motion to move forward?
question.
You said,
I'll move that we form a study committee according
Second.
to what's written.
okay, any further discussion?
This motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do you need this,
Abstentions?
Richard? You got it.
Abstentions? Nays? Okay, moving on. Superintendent report.
I have no formal report to it. That really was it, the
I was
Act
gonna say,
46.
that was
Yep.
it. Okay. The only thing I had to report, we already covered, was that we worked on the contract and evaluation goals for our superintendent, and that's where we're at, and I want to thank the board for faith in us and reviewing it and going forward. That's my report.
About the goals, are those, are we going to state those at some point? What goals for next year?
We have not set the goals for next year. Last year I gave a progress
Okay.
report on.
We just reviewed what the goals were for the current
Right.
contract.
So I imagine-
Where we were there.
I will continue to meet with my evaluation committee to set the goals at some point before
Okay.
the end of this year.
And then you
Year's
will
goals.
publicly talk.
Yes.
Yeah, and we have to do an evaluation.
Right, and you also have to do a new evaluation figure.
All right,
Okay, anything else?
You do have the school
motion.
calendar in your,
the calendar.
as an FYI in your
Yep.
packet, right? Was it?
Yep.
And you'll
all
notice
set,
we
Jim.
are going back after Labor Day, just to talk about the process, I have to set a regional calendar around our tech center, so this is a result of meeting with Superintendent of Arlington, the Superintendent of the Tech Center, and myself. We're supposed to have 175 days that match, so we do, just barely. We're going back after Labor Day, and mainly that's because of the impact of the BSD construction project. Arlington is going to go back before Labor Day, but they're not in school for 180 days, they do 175, so we will still match 175 days with them, but not, they will be going back before. So it has a little bit of an impact on the CDC, because those students from Arlington would not be able to come on those days before Labor Day, because the CDC will be following the high school calendar. And it does potentially make for, next year will be one winter that we hope we don't get much snow, unlike this year, because it's going to be a late June departure because of starting after Labor Day.
And this draft, is this a draft calendar or is this the calendar?
This is the calendar now, yep.
And that's posted on the website or?
It will be, if it's not, it will be after tonight, so it's.
I saw it on there, so.
Okay.
Oh, in the minutes, I mean.
Was it
all
there?
this To read for this meeting.
Just at a point of information, have we always sent 10 through 12 back a day later than K through 9?
Nope, that is a request from the high school this year for the first time. They want a ninth grade orientation day. Originally proposed about bringing them back in a day early, but there would be no transportation for ninth graders then, and we would also have to pay staff additional. So it'll be, and because that we schedule 180 days, actually we schedule 185 with our snow days. Students go 180 days, the law requires 175, so having them come one day less will not impact that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I'll take the motion to,
That warrant needs to be signed?
yeah.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second it, second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye.